We just turned the page into a new healing era. And this one that we're moving into is especially important to know about so that you can navigate it well if you are an entrepreneur. Because if so, this is going to bring up some stuff for you. We're talking about Chiron, the wounded healer, transitioning from Aries into Taurus in today's episode. Chiron, the wounded healer, the archetype of the rainbow bridge that invites us to walk a healing arc that, as we do, both heals us and grooms us to be a healing force in the world around the work that we've done. Now, of course, we each have Chiron in our chart. So there is a territory of wounding that is our own personal path to walk in this life. And there's the transiting Chiron in the sky that points to more of a collective healing arc that we are each experiencing in our own way. These Chiron chapters last about 7 to 8 years. Give or take, it's a much more elliptical than a circular orbit. This helps to explain maybe why certain things are coming up, but also points to the best way to navigate them, to get the most out of the opportunity to heal things in yourself and, again, become more of a healing force in the world. So we were all just in the collective wave of Chiron and Aries for the last 7-ish years, the Aries Chiron wound, which is having a distrust in your impulses, in the life force energy that calls you to act. And the way that this wound might show up around distrusting yourself to act on impulse could show up any number of ways. And while hopefully you made progress in these areas over the last 7-ish years, the wound itself could look more like an underexpression where maybe you doubt yourself or doubt those impulses and ideas when they come knocking on the door of your awareness. It may look like difficulty initiating or taking the action. Maybe there's something in the way where you just don't think you're good enough or it's worth doing, or maybe you're worried about the way that it's going to impact other people or rock the boat. So maybe there's a fear of conflict there in how your actions may rub up against others close to you. It could look like waiting for permission, like, that lack of trust, meaning that you don't just act because you got the impulse. You need someone else to tell you that it's a good idea before you do. And maybe rooted in people pleaser tendencies. Or on the flip side, it could look like more of an overcompensation where you're especially competitive or your actions are part of like needing to prove something to yourself or others. It could show up as a defensiveness, like you're already assuming that if you share the ideas that you have that you want to act on with other people, that they're going to think it's a bad idea and you're already kind of defending your actions. And it could look like hyper independence where you don't even bother to consider other people because you don't want anything to even possibly get in the way of you just being able to go. And so in some way, shape, or form, you have like this wounded relationship with that spark in you, the impulse in you, because it historically hasn't really worked out for you in one way or another. And so at the core, this is like a wound of existence, that you have the right to take up space, to act on your impulses, to ride the waves that feel like yours to pursue. And so a mantra around the healing arc with this one that we just transitioned out of might be, I don't need permission to exist as I am. My desires and my instincts are valid because they are mine. The healing arc of Aries Chiron is in claiming and owning and stepping into your leadership. Now, the transition from that into Chiron in Taurus is, okay, let's assume I completely healed in the last one. I got 100% A plus. I am fully confident and embodied in my leadership, in the relationship between the impulses that I get, the calls that I receive, and the action, the initiation, the moving forward. There's nothing in the way anymore. I don't worry about the people in my life cock blocking me. I have nurtured the relationships there that may have kept me from feeling like I can really easily act on those impulses. The next stage in Taurus is about self-worth and sustainability. And so, if your relationship dynamics didn't catch you up in the last one around feeling like you get blocked around acting, maybe the bigger fear is what it would look like to integrate something that feels like yours, that you want to sink into and settle into as a new normal in your life. It's a very different thing than getting someone on board to let you try something or do something once, to be okay with the ways that that might rock the boat or the waters of your environment. It's quite another thing to make something a regular feature in your life. Oftentimes there's more sacrifices and moving parts and things that need to shift to be able to make space for something enduring. And that's in the relational field, starting with number one and the source of these wounds that project those dynamics. It really comes down to a sense of deservedness, of worthiness, of knowing that you deserve to receive abundance, that you can trust life and those around you to support you. Sometimes this wound can show up by noticing that when things are actually offered up to you, you don't receive them with open arms. Maybe there's some ways that you'll notice over the next 7-ish years that you cock block your own receiving because of some wounded beliefs around, are you enough? Are you valuable? Are you deserving? So it's almost like in the Aries chapter, there was an insecurity around, am I too much? Then we transition into the Taurus chapter of, am I enough? Man, being human is a whole range, ain't it? And ultimately with Chiron, we're often looking at places where trust has been wounded in us. And so with Taurus, the question is both, can I trust the universe to provide? And also, can I trust myself? Can I rely on myself? Can I trust my ability to remain stable despite unstable circumstances? And this is why, of course, this is a space that is so fertile for healing work and growth for entrepreneurs. Because if it hasn't lit up for you already, the space of self-worth is absolutely poked and prodded on the path of entrepreneurship when it comes to our offers, sales, how we price things and how confidently we speak that pricing, and how we're able to maintain a sense of stability even when some months we make more than others. And so with Taurus, like with Aries, this wound might show up for you more as an underexpression or as an overcompensation. The underexpressed Taurus Chiron wound may show up as a scarcity mindset, as wondering if you're enough, feeling like you're not enough or not worthy, or that what you've created is not valuable enough, and a general anxiety around money and resources. An overcompensating Taurus Chiron wound might show up as a lack of circulation, as like a hoarding of money and resources rather than allowing yourself to take risks to reinvest your money to keep the flow moving. It could look like an entanglement and enmeshment between your sense of self-worth and your pricing, instead of just letting that be a neutral math equation to decide what to price your offers. And this is when you are defining your worth through your bank account or your resources or possessions, instead of an innate knowing that you are valuable and worthy. And it could look like a resistance to change, an unwillingness to, call back to Aries Chiron, act on the impulses that come through and to you for a reason, to help shift things closer to your visions, your intentions, and what you're calling in. And if we're getting to the root of it, with Aries, it was like an existence wound. With Taurus, it's a support wound, a wondering if life will actually meet you and provide for you. And as I've alluded to already, the healing path, not to spoil the next 7 years, but to help to support a tethering to what all of this that might come up for you is wanting to lead you into in yourself, is a knowing that your worth is inherent. It just is. By nature of you being alive, you are worthy. Think of when a baby is born. Babies don't really contribute much at all other than their existence. And holy crap, is that contributing a lot, right? Babies are amazing. And you were one once, and you never stopped being valuable from the moment of that first breath. It's not something that you need to earn. And everything that you receive is in congruence with that innate worthiness. A mantra for the healing arc of this one might be, I can trust myself to create and maintain stability, even when circumstances inevitably change. This is the territory of the work that I support entrepreneurs with. Not necessarily to make more money, though that often becomes a side effect of this work, but to establish a secure relationship between yourself, that inner worthiness, and your money, the external finances, so that even when there are raises and dips in your revenue, you're able to maintain a secure, centered position relative to that. It just becomes information that you know how to track, that signals moves you know to make. And what's often the tipping point, the shift that someone makes when they decide to become a student of cosmic currency, when they decide to stop avoiding the money stuff and actually lean in, is that they decide to commit. Ultimately, that Taurus wound gets exacerbated when you've got 1 foot in, 1 foot out. But when you fully commit to nurturing a healthy relationship with your money and finances, that is the first step to making your way to having a secure relationship with them. And of course, we do this cosmically through your design, your chart, and establishing a unique relationship that feels awesome to show up for, so that avoidance just isn't a thing anymore. My DMs are always open to find out more, and I am wishing you the most gracefully confronting Taurus Chiron chapter that brings you ever closer to the stability that you want to have with money, through a secure relationship with it that attracts all of the abundance that you envision for yourself, because you are worthy of all that and more.